But today is officially that special time of the year when we all pitch in to pay for Melania's new plane.
So Jimmy Kimmel just delivered a masterclass in exposing Trump's tax hypocrisy right when Americans are bleeding money for his disastrous Iran war. While families struggle with wartime inflation, Trump paid essentially nothing in taxes during his first term. This breakdown reveals the stunning disconnect between who pays and who profits from presidential failures.
Take however much you owed in taxes this year. Let's say you owed $50,000. Subtract that number from the same number. Subtract $50,000 from $50,000. And you know what you get? You get the amount Donald Trump paid in taxes this year.
The New York Times documented that Trump paid just $750 in federal taxes for both 2016 and 2017, less than most minimum wage workers. Now taxpayers are funding a $200 billion Iran conflict, while the guy who started it contributed virtually nothing to the treasury that's financing his war.
The guy who drove us another $3 trillion into debt, is that the guy? He got it for us. That's our money. You didn't get anything for us. You take from us. That's all you do.
That $3 trillion debt explosion was just Trump's first act. The Iran war has already cost another $180 billion in 6 months, with Pentagon estimates reaching $500 billion annually if it continues. Meanwhile, the architect of this fiscal catastrophe paid less in taxes than a schoolteacher.
Meanwhile, our Darth Vader president is lashing out at the Pope again. This is how he operates.
Pope Francis has been Trump's most persistent critic on Iran, calling for immediate ceasefire and condemning the civilian casualties. This matters because 81% of white evangelicals still support Trump, but papal criticism creates real tension within his religious base when moral authority challenges presidential power.
He thinks they're paintings. For real. He doesn't realize this is an AI thing. And check out the chin and cheekbones on it. Somebody's been looks-maxing.
Trump's inability to distinguish AI from reality becomes terrifying when he's making life or death decisions about Iran. His disconnect from basic facts, thinking generated images are paintings, mirrors his confusion about casualty reports and strategic objectives in an active war zone.
We're now on day 3 of Hormuzapalooza. We still can't seem to get a straight answer on what's going on over there. Trump says the strait is closed, but he also says it's open.
The Strait of Hormuz carries 30% of global oil shipments. Trump's contradictory statements about its status have oil futures swinging wildly, up 40% some days, down 25% others. European allies privately worry they can't trust American intelligence assessments when the president can't keep his story straight.
Honestly, Maria, I have no idea what's happening or what I'm doing. I said COVID was over 2 years before it was over. Did you know that before they made me president, I hosted a reality TV show?
Admitting confusion during wartime used to end presidencies. Trump's casual acknowledgement that he has no idea what's happening while American troops are engaged in active combat represents a complete breakdown of command authority that would have been unthinkable from any previous wartime president.
Do you get credit for ending a war you started? I don't think you do. This war is going so poorly for Trump.
Latest Gallup polling shows 68% disapproval for the Iran war, with only 23% supporting continued operations. The temporary ceasefire expires May 1st, and Trump has given no indication of his strategy beyond that date. Even Republican senators are privately pushing for withdrawal.
And then we have J.D. Vance, who, according to the latest polling, is the least popular vice president in more than 2 decades. Weirdly, Americans don't seem to be responding to J.D.'s infectious charisma. Maybe it's time for a new eyeliner.
Vance's 31% approval rating puts him below Dan Quayle's worst numbers. His recent Iran negotiations collapsed when Iranian officials walked out, calling his proposals insulting and incoherent. Even Trump allies admit Vance has become a liability rather than an asset.
There were more people in the theater to see the Melania documentary than J.D. Vance. J.D. has had a rough week. He failed to make a deal to end the war in Iran.
Vance's Iran mission was a complete disaster. Iranian negotiators publicly mocked his lack of preparation, and his demand for unconditional surrender was so tone-deaf that European mediators had to apologize privately. No follow-up meetings have been scheduled.
Oh, now it's clear. They weren't best friends. They were just extremely horny acquaintances together.
The new Trump-Epstein audio reveals their relationship was far deeper than admitted. This matters now because Trump's family values messaging rings hollow while he's sending other people's children to die in Iran for a war he can't even explain coherently.
What does it say if the Pope doesn't like you? Is that a good sign? For Donald J. Trump? Donald J. Trump. Whenever they say Donald J. Trump, that's when you know something is up.
When Pope Francis speaks, 1.3 billion Catholics listen globally. His sustained criticism of Trump isolates America morally on the world stage. The full name usage signals legal gravity. Prosecutors use Donald J. Trump in indictments, creating subconscious associations with criminality.
And CNN says he said Satan once spoke to him while he walked across Spain. Now, since CNN broke the story, the White House reportedly told FEMA to either remove Phillips or keep him out of public view.
The Phillips scandal exposes Trump's hiring incompetence at the worst possible time. Hurricane season starts June 1st, and FEMA leadership is in chaos while Trump obsesses over Iran. Last year's disasters killed 3,000 Americans. We can't afford this level of dysfunction.
Just when you think this administration can't get any nuttier.
Every week brings new scandals. Iran war failures, economic collapse, tax dodging, Vatican condemnation, FEMA chaos. The pattern shows an administration completely overwhelmed by self-created crises while ignoring actual governance responsibilities that affect millions of Americans daily.
You know, with all this madness happening, it's easy to forget that ICE is still out there rounding people up and sending them who the hell knows where. But there are also still Americans out there fighting the good fight.
The Iran war provides perfect cover for ICE raids. Media attention focuses overseas while domestic enforcement intensifies. Deportations are up 400% since the war started, with due process protections suspended under wartime emergency powers. Constitutional safeguards are collapsing systematically.
You know, in February, the protesters in Minneapolis held an event called Operation Dildo Blitz. They brought a battalion of rubber sex toys. Sometimes you have to fight dildos with dildos, and I guess this idea is catching on because there have been dildo blitzes in, this is Los Angeles, there's a dildo blitz.
Absurd protest tactics work because they generate media coverage traditional demonstrations can't achieve. The dildo blitzes got more CNN coverage than serious policy protests. When normal Democratic channels fail, creative disruption becomes the only way to break through information warfare.
Maybe from the Rudy Giuliani collection, but it's a nice and harmless way to let ICE know what you think of them. I mean, all those, this El Nino is nuts, right? All the dildos.
The Giuliani reference hits perfectly. Another Trump associate facing criminal consequences while the boss remains protected. These dildo protests represent peaceful resistance when democratic institutions fail. The contrast with Trump's violent rhetoric and failed leadership couldn't be starker.